Skyrim is a very unique game, with a massive selection of mods, both big and small, but it also has some very unique mods that provide a totally new and sometimes crazy playing experience. These are the mods that either completely change how the game is played, or will change how you see Skyrim forever. Jumping straight in, we have a unique mod that puts a clock on your adventure, called the Times of Dawnguard, which will give you 60 days to complete the Dawnguard questline, otherwise the vampire lord Harkon will get his hands on Uriel's bow and take over the world. How it works is once you reach level 10 and are given the Dawnguard quest, the timer will begin. The settings for this mod can be adjusted in the MCM, and by default you will get 60 days, which is fairly comfortable, but if you want, you can change this to whatever you like depending if you want more or less risk. From there, you will race against the clock to complete the questline and obtain Uriel's bow before Harkon does, because if you fail, a legion of vampires will descend upon the world to kill you and everything else. Essentially, this mod ups the ante of your playthrough, forcing you to be more proactive and presents a dire consequence if you should fail. The same author also has another mod simply called the End Times, which has a similar theme but instead features the main questline. Right from the get-go, a timer will begin for you to complete the main Dragonborn questline and defeat the legendary World Eater Alduin, or face the literal end of the world. This mod is a little bit more generous, giving you 365 days to finish, but again this and other settings can be adjusted in the MCM. Similar to the other mod, this one also provides an increased sense of risk to the game and makes the main questline more significant for you and the world to complete, otherwise you face complete destruction. You can also use them together to create an even more hectic and daunting Skyrim playthrough. For something a little bit more lighthearted is the next mod called Nords Speak German, which not only makes Nords speak German, but also changes the language of other NPCs depending on their race. Skyrim is full of citizens who hail from all over Tamriel, who would surely have different dialects or speak completely different languages, and this mod does exactly that. Nords will now speak German.
Magie angeblich mit einem. In Winterfeste gibt es eine Akademie, an der Magie unterrichtet wird.
Imperial soldiers will speak Italian.
Attaccheranno. Passato tanto tempo dall'ultima volta che ho ucciso uno dei Manto della Tempesta.
The Forsworn will speak French.
Bis hierher und nicht weiter. Ich warne.
And my personal favorite, making orcs speak Japanese.
ここにいるのは気に入らんな。マラキャスはこの土地をオークに授けてくださった。
To keep track of what's going on, I do recommend playing with subtitles enabled so you can still know what's being said without having to learn 4 different languages. But at the end of the day, this mod is just a bit of fun and provides a unique way to experience Skyrim, as well as adding some culture to the world, even if it's not very lore friendly. Next up is an Uldrim mod that got ported to the special edition called the Rabbit Hole. Very simply, this mod adds a new dungeon called the Rabbit Hole that features 50 levels for you to complete but gets progressively harder each level, essentially allowing you to test your skills and see how far down the rabbit hole you can get. It starts off very easy but quickly gets harder and then even worse as the enemies become more powerful and more varied. There is some reprieve however. Every 5 stages you complete, a safe room will appear, allowing you to resupply with potions and reward you with some weapons and spells, before taking on the next 5 stages. You can also choose to exit here, but will not be allowed back in unless you go right back to the beginning. Overall, I found this mod a lot of fun and a unique way to test my mettle against an ever increasing enemy. It also reminded me of other dungeon crawler games like Diablo. And for full transparency, I myself could not reach the end, but if you think you can and have an incredibly powerful character, then I recommend you try this mod out. For even more random fun is the next mod called Skyrim World Randomizer. The basic premise of the mod is very simple. Every door, entrance and exit has been randomized and will now take you to any location on the map. Essentially, if I walked up to the shop in Riverwood, I would become transported to a random dungeon instead. Being slightly skeptical about the design, I did try it out over the last few days, and can honestly say, while it is very chaotic, it is also very fun. On top of that, I have encountered several areas and dungeons within Skyrim that I either had totally forgotten about or didn't even know existed, creating a totally unique playing experience. For example, in just over 1 hour of game time, I started out in Riverwood and was immediately transported to the Black Reach, which I then ventured across and found myself in a sewer system needing to break out of prison, only to be thrust into the middle of the Forgotten Vale and then the Apocrypha Realm. Eventually, I ended up inside the Skyhaven Temple and was rewarded with the Blade's hidden armory. This whole experience was fast-paced and cemented what a unique way to play Skyrim this is. Of course, it isn't smooth sailing all the time. Sometimes you will end up in a small room or forgotten hallway, and other times you will enter an area that requires a specific item. Like me, where I found myself inside Kilcreath Temple, but without Meridia's beacon, so I couldn't claim the Dawnbreaker sword. It's also near impossible to complete any questline without an incredible amount of luck, but this isn't the point of the mod. Ultimately, it provides a fun, action-packed way to experience and play the game without having to worry about everything else. It's also very compatible with other mods. In fact, in my experience, I didn't have to uninstall anything. I simply chucked it in my load order and started up a fresh game. You will have to enable it in the MCM, where you can also play around with a few other settings and then let the mod rearrange all the doors in the game. Overall, I really enjoyed the experience and the totally random nature of this mod, and I hope you check it out for yourself and let me know what you think. Moving on, we have another climactic mod called Draugnarok, which centers around an apocalyptic event similar to the first two mods, but this time involving an endless Draugr invasion. To begin, a few small groups of undead will attack the smaller villages and towns around Skyrim. These are generally easy to defend, especially with the local townfolk as help. As time progresses, much larger forces will begin to descend upon the world, including the larger cities, as the undead try to take over everything and everyone. This then leads to the climactic Draugnarok event, where armies of the undead will overwhelm every city and town, slaughtering everyone in their path. And be warned, NPCs will be killed during this event. In fact, it's better to try and hunker down and survive the onslaught rather than taking them face on. Of course, this is totally up to you. If you do manage to survive, you will then be left with a broken and empty world as the lucky ones try to rebuild. The overall experience of this mod is unique, and I had a lot of fun taking on the legions of the undead, especially when fighting alongside your fellow NPCs. The mod also changes the weather, making it very wet and stormy to add to the thematic feeling of impending doom. All of these features can be changed in the MCM as well, where you can choose exactly when the invasion will begin and how quickly or slowly the undead armies will start to attack. Of course, I would recommend saving the game before you start any Draugnarok playthrough, and having a fairly well geared character won't hurt either. And lastly is the fun and wacky mod called Skyrim on Skooma. Essentially, this mod will add hallucinogenic properties to the very addictive Skooma drink, so whenever you consume one, you will have a completely unique experience. Some are exactly what you'd expect, such as getting impaired vision, while other times you will encounter a new friend who either wants to talk or try to kill you, and occasionally you'll be transported to a completely different realm for you to explore. This mod is very unique and often downright bizarre, and at this point you just have to sit back and enjoy the ride. Overall though, it is a joy to experience, and I recommend everyone to go down to their local dealer and buy a couple of bottles of Skooma to enjoy. Otherwise, that's it for today. Thank you for watching, Merry Christmas, and I will see you again next time. Take care.